All right, good evening, folks. I got carried away, I think, a little bit myself. I was just playing the Chopin Fantasy. It's the related piece to the Nocturne of interest today. And I think I just got carried away because I was enjoying what I was doing, and yesterday's sort of reading was sight reading was giving me some hope that I can still play this piece. So very clearly that at places where certainly with page turns and with most of the stuff I'm unable to do the work. But I think, let's say spiritually, I am connected. So that's why I played through it. Okay, so but now let's return to Okay, so now let's return to the main business here, which is the Nocturne, Opus 32, number 2. Now, if you're hearing still double voice, I probably cannot change that because I am using a collaboration camera from my iPad, and somehow they don't allow zero volume output from the machine itself when it's connected on camera. So unfortunately, sorry, this is just the nature of things. I will try to figure this out. This is still sort of a work in progress. Okay, so now let's get back to business. What did we have yesterday? This is all we heard. So I'm going to pause a little bit here because this is exactly where we ended yesterday. Okay, somehow this is, I can still hear me from the iPad. Just give me a second. Let me just check on the settings. Okay, I don't think I can fix it. So let's just leave it be. If you're hearing double voices, I'm sorry, but I'll figure this out. So yesterday we stopped here, and then we're going to venture into in ternary sections. That this is going to be the B section. So I'm going to flip the page. Also share the screen. Sorry of the, let's say, the difficulty here, but 1 second. Just old computer. Okay, as you can tell, that is completely glitched. Wait for it. Okay, so this is where we're going to play. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have time today to really review this, so I'll be taking some time to play through this. I'll play quietly and see how far we can go with this. But the very first thing that I want everybody to notice before I even play anything is that the opening. So let me blow up the first few lines. Okay, so what I wanted to highlight is the very first thing is the following. So the work initially started with what we called 4/4 time, as in each bar, each measure has 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we're doing this, right? We're doing this, right? So if we're doing that kind of idea, it was just 4 units of 4, and then you do the revolution, and then you feel the piece at 4. And also, if you listen to the melody, so this is precisely 1, 2, 3, 4. Your melody is also doing singing the 4s. But now, as we transition into this B section, it says 12/8. 12/8 simply means in each measure, the building block of each measure is now going to be eighth notes, which is basically every little tadpole here. This is an eighth note. And for each measure, there's going to be 12 of them. Now you may ask, how does this look different from before? So let me show you what was before. So stare at this configuration for a bit. So this was in the A section. How many notes are there here? There are 12 of them, right? But the work is counting in 4. So every 3 of these, you count 1 beat. So ba 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 ba, something like that, right? But now the moment as we are going to venture into section B, what's going on? 12/8 means you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're no longer doing 1, 2, you're no longer doing that. You're doing, so here, you would almost feel that every note that you play on the beat matters because they are important beats, right? You're supposed to count 12 beats here. How did Chopin say play faster? No. So this will sound, so in terms of just listening to the left hand, you will say, this sounds exactly as the same tempo as before. But so if it is the same tempo as before, why does Chopin want to make a change in time from 4/4 to 12/8, even though they sound the same? So this goes back to my original points about now in 4/4, the beats that is on the 1, 2, 3, 4 are very important. But the ones away from it, they're not so important. So just listen to the way that I count. 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da. If I'm doing da da, that means these are not important. But here, I can no longer count da da because they are just there's no dot dot here. Like every single beat is important. Up to 1 up to 12. So let me show you just the opening bar here, just the opening few bars here. Maybe let's try this again. So excuse my missed notes in the left hand, but this is the... can we make a difference? Can we actually tell the difference from this section and the one before? So if we can actually tell the difference, that's great news, because then you have a natural sense of sort of, let's say, the density of melody. So compared to the opening, which section has more to say? I think the answer is obvious. It's clearly here, because I used to say 4 things in the same time frame. Now I'm saying 12 things. Or I'm using 12 units to build my argument instead of 4. So just the increase of density of notes already tells us that there is intensification of drama. Not to mention anything else. I could mention many other things, but just on this number of notes alone, and at the same time, Chopin says, every note is important. This is 12/8. This is not just 4/4. If this is 4/4, it would sound like this. It would just have a nice separation of the notes, but there's no difference from before. However, just now, you just actually heard the overarching second theme. That is a lot more notes, which means a lot more things to say. At the same time, I want to mention that the tonality, the overall backdrop has changed also. The opening has this feeling. Here, it has this feeling. So I'm going to play this back and forth. Just compare. So it naturally splits into these two sections. As it turns out, the technical terms are my original home key, and this is actually the relative minor. A flat major versus F minor. But these are just technicalities. All we care about is how you feel. Can you feel the difference between the opening line, the opening section backdrop, and the F minor darker section here? Now, when I feel F minor, now certainly every key or every key signature to me who have listened to a good number of music is I can certainly put colors on them, or I can put temperature on them. Remember that when we were speaking about Opus 15 number 3, we were talking about, okay, the opening is dark and the temperature is rather very hot. It's not just warm, it's hot. But when we get back to sorry, that there's probably going to be double sound here. Went from hot or very cold into something warm, right? So, I mean, you can probably feel there's a temperature difference. So the temperature difference here is also from very warm in the opening section into something that is, in my opinion, F minor is hot. I think G minor is the one that you just heard, the Opus 15 number 3, is on the colder side. It's just cold. I think F minor is pretty hot. It's pretty, like, temperature-wise, it's very hot. So let's go on. Okay, kind of sounds like just sounds like just like the previous line, right? I agree with you. It is. It is just one step a little further. It was doing. And now it is doing. What I want to highlight is that the way that the two similar phrases ended differently. They start pretty much about the same way, but then they ended differently. I wonder if this reminded you of something. Probably the way that I spoke about the opening line yesterday, but I'm going to remind you regardless. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that at the turn of the page into section B, we were introduced statement A, for example. And then statement A is being taken to the next level, but retains how statement A opens. So basically, you hear two similar statements, but with one varied a little bit. I also made a similar comment about the section A part of the problem. Sorry that I was choosing statement A. And confusing us with section A. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is a level of symmetry here that Chopin is doing. Let's listen to the opening again, just the opening of the piece. So, two similar lines, starts about the same way, but they ended a little bit differently. So there is a level of symmetry here, even though the time is different, the intensity is different between the two sections, between the section that you just heard and the section that we're studying right now on the page, that they are in form, they're similar. What I now wanted to highlight is how the work is going to carry on. The work carries on into actually a very optimistic development. Sorry, I just lost myself somewhere on the score. So I'm going to play one bar before this highlighted part just so that we can ease into it. I don't know where we're going. I played through all two bars. I don't know where we're going. Now, maybe you're observant that you're looking at the score and you're saying, okay, earlier I'm not seeing so many embellishments in terms of just the markers on the keyboard here. So for example, let's go back a little bit. Maybe hear this again. Me personally, I think I'm still stuck. I don't know what to expect afterwards. And you can say that this is a giant passage of porridge once again, just like the one that you heard in 15, Opus 15, number 3, where you have a bunch of chromaticism and they don't go anywhere. They just make things louder and louder. They make things more intensified. If I want to comment on the right-hand side here, I'm sorry, not the right-hand side, the right hand, I'm going to play the end of the work here. Okay. If it sounds like porridge to you, it should sound like porridge to you. But I'm gonna play a alternate transition. It's going to transition to something that I'm not playing in a bit. But let me show you how this can possibly go. Yeah. So what I did was, after playing this porridge, I took myself back to the opening. And the reason why I do that is because the last note of the highlighted region here actually because it was doing what? It was doing this motion, the chromatic motion. So the natural note that follows after the following I was just naturally following that. I think probably this would sound fine. If I work on, for example, if I work on my note reading, and then if I also work on the transition, I think this will sound fine. But Chopin disagrees. This is something that we probably have not encountered in all previous nocturnes. Here, at the highlighted part, this is marking that the piece here has 4 flats. Just think of it, this is station A. But what Chopin is saying is, after playing through these porridge, you have left the station. You left the station, you go on to play station B. And guess what the station B is about? You repeat what you have just played, but just in the language of station B. So you will pretty much hear exactly the same thing. I can highlight. Didn't you just hear that? Didn't you just hear that? You just heard that, right? You just heard that. So this is repeated again, but in a different key, or in a different station, in a different train station. Think of this as the following. Think of this as, so suppose you're watching a movie, and this is actually at a train station, but this train station has a long history. You were experiencing something, let's say, full of agony, just like how you felt in the previous part, including how you respond to my playing. They are at this train station, maybe, let's say, 1950s, for example. The movie scene is shot in 1950s. It's dark, it's rainy, and at train stations, you're having a fight with somebody, and that's all you have. And then after the transition, the chromatic porridge that you have just heard, that you heard when I was trying to highlight the transition, somehow time is smeared, and you all of a sudden you went from 1950s into 1750s. So the movie just switches so that you lost the sense of time, and everything else in the surrounding changed into the station at 1750. Same station, but different time. All the heavy metal stuff become wooden, and you are still in the same state of agony, where every syllable that you're enunciating can still be heard because you're actually enunciating every syllable that you have here in 12/8 time. What Chopin has done here is an elevation of the same scene, but I feel in a different color. 1950s, maybe you are seeing something in color already, but the moment that it turns to 1750, when there's not even photography, it's just drawn on the page, but in black and white. So this is my take on this transition. I wish I can play it better, but I just don't have time to really practice this. So, but I still want to talk about it because I find this work fascinating, and certainly also because that I can relate it to the Fantasy in F minor, which I opened the stream with. They have a lot in common in certain parts. So instead of wasting our time on hearing my struggle through the same section that I've struggled, but now in a new key, I'm just going to end the last two bars of this section and see how Chopin can take us back to the home, back to the warmth that you felt at the opening. Okay, bear with me here. Wow, how did Chopin do it? This, again, here, this is basically porridge again, chromatic porridge, just like the same function as before. But somehow Chopin is able to weave all of this back to the opening, back to the exact material in the opening. But then, if this is weaved all the way back into the opening, why did I play it differently? Because I thought the opening was pretty quiet, right? The opening is pretty quiet. The opening, Chopin even told us, sempre piano e legato, always quiet and always connected. But why did I kind of disobeyed what Chopin said here? Kind of, and then played it really loud, really forward. Because Chopin actually told me to do it. After we returned from the porridge, Chopin changed the tempo marking of the return of the main warm theme. Instead of saying this is lento, very slow, sempre piano et legato, no, appassionato. As you will understand by the English word passionate. And there's also a dynamics marking, says FF, means fortissimo. Forte is loud. Fortissimo is more loud, very loud. But of course, Chopin doesn't beat away the piano. What he meant is the mood here is passionate. So basically, if you're playing something harmonious, it will sound warm. But if you bring up the dynamics, bring up your attitude, then the warm part will become passion. Appassionato. Probably I need to look elsewhere where Chopin also gave this similar instructions, and we can talk about it. But appassionato, here, it made the whole difference from how you would approach it in the opening. And in particular, after passing through 2 levels of agony in 2 different settings, then you return, sort of, you somehow you earned this return by now with this full passion. Now, did the material change? No, material didn't change. In fact, the material will last all the way until the end. So, but you return with passion. You play through the opening material, but now here you have to keep in contact with yourself that you're always playing with passion. At the opening, you're playing with grace. Here, you're playing with passion. Okay, so let's move on. You don't have to hear me play. We can just go all the way to how we end the piece. I don't think there needs to be anything to be said because Chopin brought everything fully home. He not only brought back the opening warmth now into passion, he had some variations that you can tell here, this quintuplets, these 5 notes configurations. They're basically the same idea for the main theme. Same idea, but just varied. But the way that he brought everything back has a lot of humane taste. Not only the ending sounds like the beginning. So really, this is a revolution. It's a circle. You end where you started. But just for the last few minutes that we are going to be talking about this here, I want to also bring up another type of sort of embellishment that Chopin often writes. And it's a little beyond, let's say, all the Chopinesque embellishments. For example, he adds all the large grace notes, right, of the work here. So the embellishment is a musical technique, and it's a pianistic technique. But the one that I want to just briefly talk about at the end here is, I think, a literary technique. it is somewhat related to you're checking the aftertaste of some taste. And what I mean is precisely this passage. Did you hear that there were 2 high points of each phrase, and they're the same? The configuration is the same. It's reach to the very top and then gradually come down. But why the repetition? Why the repetition? I could have just done the following. I could have just done this, and the piece would end pretty well. As in, a piece is ended, the goal has been achieved, and it sounded nice as well. But why does Chopin would like to do an additional line? Aftertaste. Or you can say it's the word savoring. It's like you're eating a piece of, let's say, a very nice course of a meal, or it's like, or maybe it's a very complex dessert, if you will. The first taste and the middle taste and then the aftertaste can be drastically different. But it takes somebody who is more sensitive to actually appreciate the fact that there are so many layers of, in that case, taste. In this case, musically, it's sound. But sound transitions to emotions. And emotions have different layers too. Well, maybe for the same description of an event, you could savor that event as a aftertaste. That's precisely what Chopin is doing. It's the aftertaste technique. I'm very sure that in motion pictures, in literature, there are parallels of this kind of technique. I can also guarantee you that there are such technique in poetry. But Chopin, as we know, is the poet at the piano. So let's appreciate him for what it is. I'm still going to apologize for the fact that I'm unable to play the work in full. But hopefully on the next one, in Opus 37, number 1, we will be able to get back to my usual sight reading prowess, only on easy pieces. So, okay, so that's enough for today. It's 8 o'clock. I appreciate that you guys join in, and I will see you some other time tomorrow.